Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. Esteem a New Woman. The devilish diva starts on the road to becoming a new creature in Christ in this all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem a New Woman at Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Two people were killed and a child was injured when an 18-year-old came into a Chico, California library to participate in a Columbine-style mass shooting.
Thank you, Preston. Continuing coverage this morning, an investigation is underway following a deadly shooting at the Butte County Library in Chico last night. Police confirmed the shooting killed 2 people and injured a child. The shooter is confirmed to be 18-year-old Bradley Scott Sayer of Chico. According to Chico police, the shooting was reported at 5:12 last night. Police arrived to the Sherman Avenue branch within minutes, entering through the front doors while the suspect exited through the back, where a perimeter was already set. Sayer was taken into custody, and police say at this time it appears he acted alone and had no connection to the victims or library. Officials confirmed 2 adults were killed, although those identities have not yet been released to the public, and 1 child was taken to Enloe Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. After the incident, the police chief met with media describing the first call made to law enforcement.
We had an open 911 line that you could hear gunshots and people screaming. Several Chico police officers and surrounding agencies.
Police say there is no known motive at this time. Family reunification was underway at the Chico First Assembly of God Church. First Avenue was closed last night between Sheridan and Arbutus as law enforcement continued to investigate with federal, state, and local partners. In a statement, county officials said they extend their condolences to everyone affected.
Now, according to reports, 18-year-old Bradley Scott Sayer of Chico, California, allegedly did a walkthrough in the Butte County Library before going back to his vehicle to retrieve a shotgun. And after he came back into the Butte County Library with that shotgun, he looked to allegedly participate in a Columbine-style mass shooting, all while wearing a white t-shirt with a marker on it that said natural selection and a reference to the Columbine shooters. And as he began participating in what he thought was to be a mass shooting, he wound up killing 2 people and injuring 1 child, that before eventually winding up being forced to flee the scene, where a police perimeter was established. And as that police perimeter was established, this is where Bradley Scott Sayer was quickly taken into custody and arrested and charged with first-degree murder and a series of other charges. Now, the police in Chico, California, are seeing the actions of Bradley Scott Sayer as an isolated incident. However, when I take a critical examination of Bradley Scott Sayer's alleged actions, they definitely fit within the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And it's clear to me that Bradley Scott Sayer definitely was a boy on the road to becoming a man in crisis. And this boy who grew up to become a man in crisis possibly had a foundation that started in dysfunction when his parents wound up divorcing. And as he was living and going from his mother's house to his father's house, splitting his time between both homes, what happened was Bradley Scott Sayer was simmering and boiling in anger about his parents' divorce. And as he was angry about his parents' divorce, he then went to escape into the internet and went down the rabbit hole of misinformation regarding mass shooters. And as he went down that rabbit hole filled with misinformation that is presented on platforms like Reddit and 4chan, this is where Bradley Scott Sayer started to look up to the Columbine shooters, and as he was going through high school, went to have this goal of not going to go to college, but looking to go and have the goal of thinking that he could go out here and participate in a similar mass shooting as the late Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold did when they participated in the Columbine massacre, and believe possibly he wanted to go out in the same type of blaze of glory that the Columbine killers went out on, thinking that he could go out in infamy because he felt he could not really accomplish anything in life. And this is all part of a very troubling and disturbing pattern that I have been seeing emerging among many of the youth over the last couple of years. Now, ever since the Peyton Gendron participated in the mass shooting at the Tops supermarket in Buffalo, I have noticed that the age of these types of shooters has gotten younger and younger. And what's even more scary is that we have seen an increase in frequency of these types of crimes among many people who are under the age of 18. And what's really troubling about this whole situation is that many are not looking at this pattern to see how mass shootings are impacting the young. Because many of the young, I believe, what's happening with them is that as they're seeing these people like Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold being made into celebrities and seeing them get that moment of infamy on this 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock news, are believing that this is a fast track to going out here and getting infamy for themselves. And as they believe to getting this infamy for themselves, they don't look to go out here and look to accomplish anything in life outside of taking the lives of innocent people. And sadly, with many of these kids, because they've gone down these rabbit holes and have had no sort of parental guidance, what happens with these kids is that they go out here reading this misinformation about these killers like the Columbine killers, or people like Elliot Rodger, who participated in the La Isla Vista mass shooting, and they start to venerate these individuals as heroes. And as they look to venerate these individuals as heroes, they believe that they want to go out here and participate in the same type of action, and that's all because there were no adults to sit there and give these children any sort of guidance to let them know this is not the type of person you want to aspire to be like. And when it comes down to things, you don't want to take somebody else's life, and it's not your right to take somebody's life because you are in your feelings about how bad your life is, and it's not your place to go out here and make someone just as miserable as related to the company because you're feeling miserable, because possibly when it comes down to this Bradley Scott Sayer, he was possibly feeling real miserable as related to this whole divorce that his parents went through. And as he was seething with this anger, his own parents possibly didn't even know he was out here again on these websites, because when it comes down to a lot of parents these days, they don't really spend time to look at what's on these kids' devices and to be able to let them know, hey, when it comes down to this internet, you got to take what you read with a grain of salt. A lot of this stuff on here is misinformation. A lot of this stuff is propaganda. And a lot of this garbage, sadly, is being fed to our children. And that's the thing that I believe motivates kids like Bradley Scott Sayer to believe, hey, that it's okay to participate in this type of crime, not understanding that you're hurting innocent people, because that's what the Columbine killers did. They wound up taking the lives of innocent people who had absolutely nothing to do with any of the torment that they went through high school, and this guy basically caused even more torment for people at that library. And that's something that just shows how dysfunctional this child of the corn was, because this child basically grew up like a stalk with no sort of structure and no sort of order. And as a result, he wound up creating chaos at that Butts County Library. And as he created this chaos at this Butts County Library, he's now going to have to deal with the consequences of his actions. Unlike Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, who took their own lives to avoid accountability, he's now going to have to take accountability at 18 years old. Here was a kid who basically just graduated high school, and now he's going from graduating high school to going straight to the county jail, and then possibly will get convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of first-degree assault possibly, and will go from being having the freedom to basically start his own life, to starting his life in the penitentiary, where he will have to deal with the authority of the COs and also have to deal with the social pecking order of Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, and will have his tight end turned into a wide receiver as he's turned out in the California prison system, as he's traded for Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, Keef coffee, Taster's Choice coffee, off-brand lemon lime drink, off-brand grape drink, off-brand kiwi strawberry drink, off-brand mango drink, off-brand apple juice, off-brand cranberry juice, off-brand orange juice, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand ginger snaps, Hunt's snack pack puddings, beef jerky with cheddar cheese, beef jerky with mozzarella cheese, beef jerky with Monterey Jack cheese, beef summer sauces, packages of Velveeta cheese, packages of soy sauce, packages of sriracha sauce, packages of mayonnaise, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies, the whole shebang, chips, Fritos chips, Doritos, honey, hot flamin' Doritos, hot flamin' Cheetos. I mean, they basically gonna wind up turning this little skinny white boy out and wind up braiding all of his hair, making him into one of their bitches. That's what's gonna happen to this boy. And as he's in that penitentiary for the rest of his life, that's possibly where he will wind up with a deep regret as related to listening to all of that misinformation he received on the internet, and realized he basically threw his life away looking up to a fictionalized concept of Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, not understanding that he's basically in a worse hell than they are currently in. Because Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold right now are cooking in hell, being spit roasted by two demons. And sadly, this guy's getting going to be spit roasted by a bunch of guys. And then eventually what's going to happen is Mr. Sprinkles going to come in after they finish, again, turning out the front side and the back side, and then wind up glazing his face, making it look like he ate some fried chicken, all before he winds up going out here and spraying the backside with his special sauce, and then calling all the guys from Cell Block D to look at dude's backside as he splits the cheeks open and shows that everybody his backside looking like the inside circle of a Louisiana crunch cake. That's the fate that this 18-year-old is on the road to, and sadly, this is what he graduated into, because he, again, I'll repeat it for a third time, went out here going down one of these rabbit holes of misinformation on the internet. And as he went down this rabbit hole of misinformation as related to these mass shooters, is now going to be getting shot up with a lot of these carbon rods. I mean, this is the fate this guy is going to suffer as he's going to deal with the hell in this life before he winds up leaving this life. Again, this dude possibly on a road to life in prison, all because he did not get the male life skills and male survival skills in order to understand that when it comes to this internet, you can't believe most of what you hear or what you read on this internet if it doesn't come from verified sources. If it doesn't come from a verified source, you basically got to take it with a grain of salt, because if you take that misinformation and apply it to your life, you may wind up on a road where you're headed to prison, and may wind up on that road like this 18-year-old currently is on. And that's the tragedy that's happened here. Again, here's an 18-year-old whose life is basically over before it started. Dude just came right out of high school and is now on the road to prison, all because he got caught up in fantasies about this whole shooting, not understanding in the real world there are real consequences for going out here to do harm to people. And in the real world, those consequences are severe. And that's why you have to, again, be careful about what you're reading on this internet. You got to be very careful about what you read on this internet as a boy growing up to be a man, because if you go out here and read misinformation, you can go from being a man who has intangibles like a like your freedom, your safety, your health, and your future, to winding up becoming a man in crisis who just become yet another number inside of the penal system. Now, if you want to learn to identify the behavior of a beta male, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me make more videos talking about the man crisis in depth, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Runway of Doom. The goddess next door struts her stuff on the catwalk to take on a runway of rogues in this action-packed all-new ISIS series adventure. Get your copy of ISIS Runway of Doom at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, An Offer He Can't Refuse. The man who rules the world gets a job offer he can't refuse in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes, An Offer He Can't Refuse at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.